there's a lot of women that get into their menopausal years and they go, oh, no, I'm done with that. And I'm like going, but you're only 50. You've got 20 or 30 years left in you. And so
stop now.
It's so easy to suppress it, but it's our life force. And so if we're not utilizing our sexual energy, or when we'll go, oh, well, I'm single. And it's like, you still have your own self that you can work with. Self-pleasuring is still can be a joy. It's a release, and so much it gets that energy flowing, gets your body becomes more alive, because when we suppress our sexual energy, I believe that's when we start having all those health issues. It's no different to suppressing our emotions. It's got to come out somewhere, so it will come out in your health.
Welcome back to another episode of the Menopause Disruptor Podcast. I am your host, Mary. If you're new to this podcast, welcome. Today's conversation is an exciting topic about sex. I sat down with Pauline Ryland, who hails from Queensland, Australia, and we talked about sexuality, intimacy, and libido. So much was unpacked in this conversation. You'll just love what she has to share. Her journey into becoming an intimacy whisperer, that's right, that's her title, is quite extraordinary. And she shares it all in her book titled Empowered Conscious Sexuality, From Prude to Pleasure, which became an Amazon #1 bestseller in 5 categories. So in our conversation, well, we talked about anything related to what is holding us back, stuck, blocked, past traumas, hidden traumas that we haven't dealt with, and how traumas are impacting our sexuality. She shares some really interesting techniques, very effective techniques that she found and uses in her practice to release that stuck energy so that you can start feeling into your body and accepting your sexuality and unlock those hidden stories, those narratives that the amygdala keeps telling us over and over again in our head. Because after all, it's the brain's job to keep us safe from the unknown. And some of those techniques that she shares, well, you'll just have to stick around. In this conversation, we'll go beyond just our sexuality. We also talk about the energetic body and the important role it plays in the whole person that we are as a menopausal woman. And when we learn to appreciate all our parts and to feel into it, we're really living our best life. Some of us are just stepping into that best life with our menopausal transition. Okay, before we get started, here's some things you need to know about Pauline. Pauline Ryland is a certified somatic sexologist, a body worker, a tantra trainer and facilitator, and a master trainer and practitioner in neuro-linguistic programming. She is an advanced subconscious reprogramming coach and an Erickson hypnotherapist. Pauline is also a result coach and performance consultant and uses the havening technique for trauma. And in her book, well, she talks about all the modalities that she uses to help her clients move past stuck points and feel into their true sexual person they're meant to be. Pauline specializes in libido coaching for both men and women. Working with women, Pauline helps women who have lost their libido or have an inability to orgasm or experiencing painful sex and complications or anything that might be getting in the way of fully experiencing their full sexuality. When working with men, she helps them discover low libido that can be a result of inability to maintain the experience of an erection or premature ejaculation, for example. So there's something here for everyone, men and women. So ladies, if you're listening, maybe you want to share it with your husband or your partner who can also benefit from this conversation and Pauline's wisdom. To learn more about Pauline's work, including her book, you can visit her online at paulineryland.com. I'll have that linked in the show notes. She's also on Facebook and Instagram as the Intimacy Whisperer. Stick around. You're really going to enjoy this hot conversation. Good day, Pauline, all the way from Queensland. So happy to have you on the show today. We are going to talk about sexuality and intimacy, 2 key areas that tend to go by the wayside during menopause, and we will talk about that. So welcome.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
I think the listeners will be. I know I am. So for the listeners to know, just before I hit record, we had a little bit of a preamble. I was particularly drawn to one subject that Pauline is an expert in and we'll talk about is post-traumatic stress disorder. It has a grave impact on menopause, particularly if there's underlying trauma issues. So let's just dive in because that has been the #1 download episode so far on PTSD. So let's get right into it.
Okay, what do you want to know?
So tell us, we all have some form of trauma?
Yes, look, I believe we all have some form of trauma. I mean, some people don't have memory. No one's life is perfect. It's not all rainbows and unicorns. So we all go through different things. So it's really a matter of how we perceive them and how we handle them and how we respond to them. Examples could be, people have a bit of anxiety or stress, but they don't really know where that's come from. Perhaps it's always been a part of their system. So I try and look at where that's come from, because when we get to we're talking mainly about menopause, and our libidos die, I'm looking at all the different angles as to what's going on and what's a contribution, because if there's things that have not been dealt with, they're all things that are going to come up later in life. It's like if you squash your emotions down, they're going to come out at some point, and they usually come out in terms of some form of illness. So I just sort of really investigate as to what that cause could be, and then we work with that.
And so what are some of the causes?
Well, there can be sexual trauma, obviously. There can be just things growing up, in your childhood, if you had abusive parents, or parents might not have been abusive to you, but they were abusive with each other, or there's lots of yelling and fighting. There could be bullying at school, things that you think, it's part of growing up, but they can actually have some quite strong impact on you in lots of different ways. So it's just a matter of getting as much history as I can to go, do I need to do a trauma session before we start libido coaching? And 9 times out of 10, there is something there.
I'm really curious on how these past traumas, whether they've been dealt with or not, and in most cases it's not, because we don't actually realize until we hit the menopause phase that we have a lot of unprocessed trauma that hasn't been dealt with properly, and emotions that have not been properly recognized and allowed to come out. And one of the ways it seems to manifest is through our own sexuality, how we see ourselves, how we appreciate our bodies, and of course our bodies start to change. What is trauma? As it seems obvious with the sexual trauma that there would be, but other traumas, why is it that it tends to hit home with the libido and the sexuality and in our intimacy?
Well, if you look at the underlying core of any trauma, we have a level of fear in our system and we don't feel safe. So when we don't feel safe and secure, our libido is going to switch off. I mean, our libido can start switching off because we have hormonal changes and we're losing estrogen and progesterone and our hormones become imbalanced. So that is a contribution. But when we have this level of that fear or not feeling safe in our bodies, that's another way for us to switch off. It's like when a woman experiences internal pain, the libido will switch off. It's an automatic protective mechanism that I can see, because your system's going, it's going to hurt when I have sex. I don't want to have sex, so I'll switch my libido off. It's sort of like this automatic process that happens. Why it happens, I don't know. I can't get into the technicalities of it. That's just my observations with working with people over the years. And so we have an innate ability to switch our libidos off. So if things aren't all in flow and things, our system's not calm, then that would be one reason if we haven't dealt with it.
I wonder if it almost goes back to a survival instinct of the species in that, okay, honey, it's not time for sex. It's time to deal with the stress. It's time to deal with that saber-toothed tiger chasing us.
Yeah, because this is it. When we've got PTSD or any form of trauma, we are in that flight, fight, freeze mode.
Right.
So the process that I do, and I had worked on a particular issue for myself with different techniques.
Okay.
That never helped. And then I finally, it never helped. And then I had dental trauma, nothing to do with menopause or anything, but I had major dental trauma. I had horrible things done to me as a child. And I dealt with a dentist over the years. It was probably a 20-year period. I didn't go to the dentist, but it got really re-triggered a few years ago because I had to have all the gum cleaning, and that's really invasive. And I require a lot of injections to numb out as well. And there was no care happening in the session. And my body had a complete mental breakdown afterwards. And then I had to go back 3 months later. I wrote a letter of complaint to my dentist, but I had to go back 3 months later to a different hygienist. And I was just like, I don't think I can do this. I think my teeth can just fall out. I don't care. Like, I was a bit in that state.
It was that bad.
And I found out about this technique called havening, as in a safe haven, developed in the States. It's been around for about 15 years. And I went, okay, let's have that done. So I found the lady that was the trainer and got her. I said, can you get me in like now? Because I've got an appointment in 2 days. So she did the session with me. And what this does is we do a few different techniques. So this is one of the techniques. And what this does is it calms the nervous system down and it floods it with oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin. So even when you're feeling stressed or anxious, you can just do that. Okay. But when we're doing the process, is a talk therapy and our eyes are closed. We're doing this the whole time. But what this does is we talk about the trauma whilst we're in a bit of a calmer state and we score it. 10 out of 10 would be the most horrific experience. So obviously I scored that a 10. And so as we do each round, you look back and you score it again, and that 10 drops to a 7, to a 5, to a 3, to a 0. When I finished the session, I could feel my brain looking for the trauma and it couldn't find it. I could feel my brain still like almost wigging out. It was bizarre. And then over the next few days, I would do this, and we have a mantra that we implement. So how did it make you feel? What would you like to feel? And I wanted to feel relaxed, safe, and calm. So that was my mantra. So I did that over the next few days. I'm relaxed, safe, and calm. And when I was doing this was wild. I would literally have a half a smile on my mouth. And I'm like going, this is crazy. I'm smiling about going to the dentist. It was bizarre. And then I started playing with it. It was hysterical.
Oh,
I was laughing about it. Like, who am I? Has the aliens taken over me? Because I was literally smiling about going to the dentist, and then I had no problem going to the dentist at all. I was so blown away with it. I said, I've got to learn this. And it's been such a great contribution to my clients because, as I said, 9 out of 10 clients I'm doing one session of this with before we start.
I have heard of the Havening technique and I actually tried it. So if you could just talk us through what the listeners could expect if they were ever to try the Havening technique, whether it's with a coach or couldn't they do this at home? What does it all entail?
You do need a coach because the coach guides you to unlock things.
Okay.
And it's a bit of a brain twister activity that we do. But I can give you an example. I had a client that came to me for libido coaching. She was in her early 30s. She had no libido at all. She wanted to have a baby. She was having panic attacks a couple of times a day. She'd had some sexual abuse. So she was like frozen several times a day and would wake up sometimes at night, like in total fear, like doom, we're going to die. Pretty intense. And we did the work with her, and I always do a check-in a couple of days later and get you to do this over the next few days with your mantra. And I do a check-in, and she said, I felt once or twice like I was going to have a panic attack. So I did the Havening hands and I was fine. I was like, okay. So now before we have our session next week for libido coaching, if that happens again, do your Havening, but then I want you to journal what was happening, what time it was, what you've eaten, what was going on. So if it happened a few times, we could see if there was a pattern. By the time I went back to her, like 1 week after the Havening, she had not had one panic attack, not one. And her whole persona completely changed. I called her the Queen of Chill. She was such a delight to work with. She was a sponge. She just took on all the coaching and the shifting, because I do mindset work with it as well. It's not just the physical things that I take you through. So she just was this sponge, and I just saw her evolution of her through the coaching. It was just beautiful to witness. Big changes can happen.
Quite remarkable. So the Havening hands, is that a process of just rubbing the palms together?
Yeah,
okay.
The palms.
And then it's just, we're stirring up energy by doing so.
Well, we're calming the system down is what we're doing.
Calming. Okay.
So what the Havening does, it actually unlocks the amygdala. So it unlocks that amygdala in the brain, which is the part of the brain that's in the flight, fright, freeze mode. So it actually unlocks that, and it removes the emotional charge. I could tell you about the dental trauma now, and there's no charge there. We're not burying it, we're just removing the charge. And because the amygdala is now unlocked, our whole system's in a different space. We're not in that flight, fright, freeze mode.
Because the amygdala wants to keep playing that story over.
So we've unlocked it.
Okay.
It's quite science-based, actually. Yeah, it is science-based. So
okay.
Yeah, love it.
This is a really interesting intersection between science and spirituality, or science and energy work, for those who might find the word or the idea concept of spirituality too woo-woo, but the energy work, because we are an energetic body.
Yes.
And full of, every atom in the body is bouncing and vibrating. Nothing, no matter is actually completely still. If you were to break it down to the smallest molecule, I envision like this havening process. Okay, it's unlocking because, as I said, we're stirring up some energy. And I would imagine then that by doing so, we're allowing some energy, maybe energy blockages to release at the same time. If the amygdala is kind of like releasing, letting go, or
Well, there's
unlocking.
probably lots of different things going on in the body once the amygdala is unlocked. But essentially, we're calming the nervous system down. That's what's happening.
First and
the nervous
foremost.
system is being flooded with all the happy hormones, but afterwards. So anytime I feel stressed, I'll just sit there for a couple of minutes and I'll do that, and it just instantly shifts. So for me, that's a really good way of a start point for my libido coaching. That just removes one blockage, and then we can get on with the rest of things, because I also work with mindset. So I work with all the emotions. I work with fear, anger, grief, guilt, and sadness are the 5 main emotions I work with, because I'm an NLP practitioner as well. So do you know what NLP is?
It stands for linguistic programming.
That's right. So
awesome.
Essentially, it's a tool that we do these activities and processes that actually go straight to the subconscious, and we're making change on the subconscious to bring about change on the conscious level. So we can do that through working with those different emotions and working with our beliefs, because let's face it, we don't often have a lot of really empowering beliefs about ourselves. So as part of my libido coaching, it will be like working with your belief systems. Your self-love and worth and value is probably top of the chain of the things. But then there's other things. I've worked with a woman that she was turning 40. She'd never orgasmed, married 20 years, loved her husband, had some sexual abuse as a young girl by her grandmother. She'd been through anorexia. She wore big baggy tops and big baggy pants. And we had this session where she had this belief where, who am I to even enjoy sex? Like that lack of worth of who the hell is she to actually enjoy it. So we flipped that belief to, I'm empowered in who I am as a sexual woman. Next week, she walked in and she had a t-shirt on and a mini skirt. And I'm like, oh, check you out, girlfriend. What's going on? She's doing this. She's going, oh my God. Literally, she's doing this the whole time. I'm flicking through my notes to see what we've done. She says, well, I saw my husband in the lounge room. I grabbed his hand. I led him to the bedroom. We had the best sex we've ever had in my entire life. Oh my God, I can't believe I did that. And I'm like, and that's a problem for you. How? And then it was like, bang, light bulb moment. You got it. The shift had happened without her even realizing it. So that's how powerful the NLP stuff can be. So I love bringing that into the coaching, because I can do all the things that we need to do on the physical level to fire up your system and get your libido back firing. But if we don't address what's in the headspace, these physical things aren't going to be sustainable. They'll last for maybe a certain period, and then they'll just potentially dissipate, because we've got things going on in the mindset. They work together. That's why I get the results that I get, is because I'm working with the mindset and the physical as well.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
The mind is such a powerful tool in so many ways, and can be an asset or one of their biggest detriments because of the stories, the amygdala, once again, that wants to keep telling.
We have so many stories. Hey, I'm no different. I have them too. And it's like, quiet, stop it.
But our pain points is what we tell, is what we explore and discover a transformation. And we share those pain points with others because we've been there. We've walked that walk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I would imagine then that this was the impetus to your book. Congratulations on your book. It's doing well on Amazon, I see. I'm very curious. I want to hear all about your book and how it's helping women. And what was the impetus to write the book?
So the book's called Empowered Conscious Sexuality, From Prude to Pleasure.
Love it.
There were some years back, a lot of my friends were writing books, and I was like, oh gosh, I'm not writing a book. Like, too much, not going to write a book. I was quite determined I wasn't going to be writing one. And then I got what I call a download from my higher self that said, you're writing a book. And I was like, oh, really? Sort of almost arguing with myself. And I'm like, well, if I'm writing a book, it has to be education, because everything I do, like when I'm coaching and teaching women about their sexuality and then firing up their libidos. It's educational. That's what it is, because it's stuff that we just don't know about. And that I get the response is, oh my gosh, if we all knew that. And I'm like, I know. It's like it's hidden information. So it had to be that combination. One question I always get asked is, how did I get into this work? And you must hear some amazing stories. So the book's really the part of my journey of how I actually got into this work. And it wasn't like I woke up one day and said, I want to be a sex therapist, because I didn't know what that was. It's just little things dropping in and me just following it, and sometimes not even following it, by going, I don't really understand what that is. I'm just going to park that over there for the moment. And it came back. So it's my journey of getting into this work. And then I talk about the actual modalities that I use. So NLP is one, Havening we've talked about, Tantra, and sexological bodywork. They're the 4 main modalities that I work with, and they all just blend in together. And so I talk in detail about each of those modalities so people can get a bit more of an understanding of them. And I also talk about sacred sexuality and conscious relationships and consent and boundaries as well. And interweaved in that is exercises that people can do, whether they're single or on their own. So I work with people that are single and the people that are in relationships. It's a combination.
Okay.
Yeah.
You work with women and men.
Yeah. I've got a man coming to me today for a session, and I've got a woman on Zoom. It's a mix. I work with men around all their issues as well. That's no problem.
Yeah, because it shows up with men in different ways. Erectile dysfunction, for example.
Yeah. And so I've got a guy at the moment that he's probably like 50, 60, and he's always had erectile problems. And back when he was 20, he was put on some steroid. He didn't know it was a steroid. And he was on it for 3 months because he was losing his hair. And then all these things got worse in his system. And he put on 20 kilos in like 3 or 4 months. So he dropped it. And then when he had his first sexual experience at 25, he didn't get an erection. So we did trauma yesterday. Even though he doesn't see it as trauma, I see that as a very big linch point into that. Plus he's got low testosterone as well. So yeah, I see men for lots of different things as well.
So very curious. And that was one of the questions I wanted to ask, was how much of a role do you play in understanding the hormones? And when we have those hormone fluctuations, and for women, estrogen egress, which plays a number on the body and the brain, including our sexual health. So do you get involved in that and look at those?
I am not a hormone expert. I've been working with my own hormones on and off for a while. I'm no hormone expert, and this is what I love about my work is I don't have to know what's going on with your hormones. Well, I know obviously with menopause or whatever, and there's certain things that will happen like drying out and those sorts of things. But in terms of libido, I can get your libido firing up no matter what your hormones are doing. That's the beauty about the work that I do. And I'm grateful for that, because if I had to get into the role of the hormones, I'd take a long time, because hormones are tricky to get balanced, because there's so many changes and fluctuations that happen. So yeah, I can work with women that are postmenopausal, that have got no estrogen and no progesterone left in their systems, like myself, and still have the libido, because I'm working in a different way. I'm working with sexual energy for a start. So getting the energy moving. It's apart from the mindset and the belief changes and emotions and things like that. That's one of the keys, is the sexual energy.
Yes, we are an energetic body, just as much as a physical body, with all the biology of our body, hormones, endocrine system, but the power of the energetic body, which is, would you agree or not, that we are still just scratching the surface in the Western world about understanding truly how powerful the energetic body is, and tapping into it effectively can release so much. And
100%.
Yeah.
Yes, and there is healing involved with it as well. Yeah, 100%. You know, it's interesting to see that there's a lot of breathwork practices coming out now. Yeah. I'm going to revisit soon. In COVID, I ran an online Zoom program. I've got this on my website. It's a static mindfulness breathwork. Right. This is a very different track to what I take my clients through, but this is a way of guided practices, slowing our systems down, like really slowing our systems down, and then bringing in the touch. So I did that on Zoom during COVID, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to bring that out again soon. So yeah, that will be coming soon.
That sounds exciting. I've talked about the modalities, two of them, the havening technique as well as NLP. Let's talk about Tantra. I want our listeners to know what this is.
Well, everyone has either no clue what it is, or they think it's something that it's actually not. So I look at Tantra as in a couple of different ways. When I learned Tantra, I didn't realize that I was already doing tantric stuff, that I had done that in my sacred sexuality workshops and trainings and things that I'd done. I didn't realize that that was sort of tantric. So I'd be like going, oh, I already know that. Oh, I already do that. So that was quite interesting when I did my training. But when I did my training, one of my key things was I want to take this out to the world and not actually label it Tantra per se. Yes, like it is, everything is tantric, but I wanted to take it out to average John and Betty, because why can't everybody know this stuff and learn this stuff? You don't have to be in the select tantric world.
Exactly.
There's a lot of that sort of going on out there. And I'm like, no, I'm pretty down to earth, and I just want everyone to have this information, because why not? So Tantra is really a way of life. And if we get technical, it is a science that embodies mind, body, spirit, and sexuality. Not many things that involve sexuality, but this actually does. So there's the non-sexual aspects of Tantra, and then there's sexual aspects of Tantra. So the non-sexual aspect I look at it is connection. So I always get my clients really connected with themselves out of these busy heads and into our bodies. So connection, present, being really present with what's there, not being in your head about sex, not going through a tick list. We've done this, now it's time for that, let's do that. Have I had an orgasm? Has she had an orgasm? Is it time to enter? Get rid of all of that and come back into your body and be in the flow of your body and let the energy move you. Because otherwise we've got these blocks. Even when we orgasm and we tense up, it's blocking our body, so our energy can't move. To relax our bodies as we go into orgasm, it's like the energy's got room to move. It's like, oh, party time. So the energy can flow more. So that's the way I look at Tantra. So there's practices that you can do as a partner, in a partner relationship, that really bring really deep, intimate connection, can be just lasting for life. And it's about that honouring of yourself, honouring of each other. It's being in your truth and being in kindness. There's all those with Tantra. And then there's the sexual component. So from my perspective, it's what I'm doing when I'm working with the sexual energy and bringing breath work and those sorts of things in. You can do that on your own, and then you can do it with a partner as well. I have a very probably different perspective of Tantra, because I just treat it as part of your sexual life. I don't sort of put it up as anywhere different. It's just incorporated in, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Instead of putting a label on it, which is attached with visions of where you have to be one of those people and dress a certain way or act a certain way, or have
100%. That's exactly it. And tan comes from the word, it's a Sanskrit Hindu word, which off the top of my head means energy. Energy of flow. It's the flow of energy. That's what Tantra is.
I learned about it, and I actually ended up having to write a paper on it when I was doing a chakra energy course, and that was in one of our modules. And when we talked about energy work, it is like releasing that stuck energy in the chakras and allowing it to flow naturally. And so that one particular module was about exploring different ways to release stuck energy, and Tantra was one of our assignments to write a little paper on. I thought, this is so beautiful. What a beautiful and lost art, if you will. And just getting out of the headspace, like you've said, and just allowing the body to feel into it and honoring the partner if explored together with the partner.
That's it. It's just that thing of just getting lost in the experience, and that's the beauty about it. And when you're lost in that experience, you're not in your head at all, and you can sometimes go, oh, is this where we're at? Oh, okay. Because it's not planned. You're not like planning things. You're just in that natural flow and rhythm. And that's when your lovemaking can just go to the next level.
Yeah.
Because you're in that flow state.
Yeah.
I believe people put a ceiling on their pleasure. For example, a woman might finally have that orgasm. She's like, oh, I've got that orgasm. Okay, I'm done. And I'm going, well, what if there's more there? But they've got that thing in their head. I finally got that orgasm, because maybe it takes them a while to have that orgasm, tick, done. Okay, I'm complete. That's in the head. So if we learn to listen to our bodies and follow our body rhythm and get back in our bodies and work with the sexual energy, it's like, well, if you can have one orgasm, why can't you have more? We're putting a ceiling on it. And even for men, I mean, men can be multi-orgasmic. Men have ejaculation and orgasm are actually two separate things. And over time, they've just become collapsed together. But men can learn to separate the orgasm and the ejaculation, so they can actually not ejaculate and circulate that energy through the body and have multiple body orgasms. So that's a tantric thing, definitely. But that's possible. But there's a few steps you need to do well before that. You got to keep doing this first, and then I'll give you the techniques and you can practice that down the track, not while we're working together.
Hang on. Oh, wow.
Exactly.
Now I'm curious, are you working with a lot of couples and clients at that midlife stage and menopausal stage, or for men, you know, moving into their latter years, that they're finally feeling like, you know what, I've lived a good life, but now let's start living it on my terms? Are you finding that a lot of clients are coming to you with that enthusiasm and curiosity?
Yes, definitely. When I work with couples, quite often there's two ways. Couples will either both come on the consult with me. So maybe the lady has the problem, but partner will come on as support, which is good, because then I can ask them how they're feeling and get their input and feedback. And if there's a real disconnect between them, maybe the partner has some issues as well. So then I might do coaching with them both separately.
Okay.
We've got to sort their emotional state, their libido out, both sides. But I'll bring them together for what I call a tantric session, which is around connection and intimacy and building that intimacy. So if there's a real disconnect there, because maybe they haven't had sex for 5 years, so there can be resentment, all sorts of things could be building up, guilt, resentment, all sorts of things. So I
very good point. Yeah.
I just look into it and see. So, you know, the man that I spoke about that didn't have an erection when he first had sex, his girlfriend was on the call, and then I asked her have you got anything you'd like to contribute? And she just said, no, I'm just here to support. So she was just there to support. She wasn't interested in engaging. And so I'm just working with him, and potentially we'll do a connection exercise with them later on. And sometimes I get people that are in relationships, but I just have them on their own come and see me. It's an individual choice of what they want and how they want to work it, definitely.
And like, how are they coming across you? Are they being referred? Do they talk to the doctor and say, look, I've got this problem with my sexuality? Or just kind of haphazard?
Through my SEO, through my website, people do find me. I'm pretty out there in the community, so people know the work that I do. I've got a reasonable profile in the area that I live in, and I go out to expos around Australia, and I have a stand and I'll talk at those expos as well. So that gets my name out there as well. And at the moment, I'm doing lots of podcasts, which is fantastic. Hopefully I'll get more clients from overseas. I have worked with plenty of clients overseas. I've had clients in the States and the UK and New Zealand. So that's good. It's just always, of course, getting the time zone worked out, but it's not that hard, really. So yeah, that's how people find me at this stage.
And we live in a world now, COVID's proven that we can do everything on virtually, digitally, online. And in fact, I was doing my yoga teacher training during the COVID, and we had people on the other hemisphere and staying up late at night until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning so that we could all do our practicums with each other, and it built a beautiful community camaraderie. We realized that, you know, we can make things happen, but it is a universal problem, and finding a coach might not always be easy, and probably someone who's online out of your community can keep it more on the down low, because I imagine that there's a little bit of the embarrassment or trying to keep it quiet.
It can be a little bit about that. I don't think people talk too much and share too much, but they're doing the work with me. There's probably are some. There's a couple that I work with and they eventually didn't stay together, but
Okay.
there was definitely shifts and changes whilst I was working with them. And I've connected with him. He's a younger man. And I had a birthday lunch the other day, and so he came to birthday lunch. And so, when I was married, we went to Pauline for sessions and she was great, but it ended up not working out. And he gave it a 6-month timeline afterwards, and nothing shifted at her end. So he went, okay, I'm out. He tapped out.
Yeah.
But he gave it plenty of opportunities. So that's a bit rare, but it does happen. And I do have friends that will recommend people. And I've got a few psychiatrists that will refer people to me as well. A few doctors. The other day, I actually went to the doctor. I don't go to the doctor very often. I went to a doctor on a Sunday because I was flying and I was still quite sick and knew that I had to have some antibiotics, something I haven't had probably for 10 years. And I sort of said to him, so do you see many men with erectile problems? He goes, yeah. And I said, what do you do? He says, I give them Viagra. And I said, Viagra doesn't work. He goes, well, yeah, I know, but it gives them some form of hope. I said, this is what I do. And he was just like, give me your card.
Awesome. Well, as a menopause doula, if I have a client come to me saying, Mary, I'm just having an issue. I can't feel sexual about myself. My libido's died. Should I take testosterone? Say, yeah, testosterone might be another option. But what if you could really feel into who you are, embody who you are, and work with your energy? Well, I've got a coach for you.
I mean, with men, it's quite different. When they're testosterone, like what frustrates me with men is that, not with men themselves, with the doctors, is that the testosterone, everything's in a point. So the testosterone reading needs to be, let's say, between 12 and 24. So if you fall anywhere in that range at, let's say, 14, the doctor's going to go, you're fine. And I go, yeah, but you're not fine because you're at the lower end of your testosterone and you're having erection problems. So you're actually not. So the doctors are happy if you're in that gauge.
Yeah.
So that's someone like that, I'll be going, we need to work with your testosterone levels.
And I think the idea of just working with your energetic body and being absolutely more in control of how you can guide your body through calming the nervous system, through feeling into the energy, through unlocking the amygdala. How powerful is that?
Yeah, 100%.
Better than medicine. So much better than medicine.
Oh, yes, without a doubt. It's empowering you because there's a lot of people that live their lives and they haven't really, experienced sex the way they thought it would be. And then they finally get to an older age and they're like, well, I want to explore this for me now.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful. People will come and go, I want to explore this for me. I know there's been some issues that I haven't really looked at. And that's my time. So that's when I get my older people that will come and see me because they want to work out what's going on and why they haven't had a great sex life. We're more focused on women, but there's a man that I'm working with now that he's probably in his 50s and he's had premature ejaculation all his life. So sex has been not something he's really enjoyed. And now he's like, I want to enjoy it. Let's work on that. Men and women, that they've put up with or just accepted that's the way it is. But then they get to a point where it's like, no, I don't want to accept that anymore. I want to look at that more and delve into it more and explore who I am.
That's beautiful. Again, going back to what's blocking it. Where's the trauma? What's the underlying issues? Can we release or unlock? Because the energetic body is designed to feel full pleasure. And the physical body, and the brain is saying, no, we haven't dealt with this.
Sexual energy is our life force. If we suppress our sexual energy, there's a lot of women that get into their menopausal years and they go, oh, no, I'm done with that. And I'm like going, but you're only 50. You've got 20 or 30 years left in you. And so
stop now.
It's so easy to suppress it, but it's our life force. And so if we're not utilizing our sexual energy, or when we'll go, well, I'm single, and it's like, you still have your own self that you can work with. Self-pleasuring is still can be a joy to release, and so much it gets that energy flowing, gets your body becomes more alive, because when we suppress our sexual energy, I believe that's when we start having all those health issues. It's no different to suppressing our emotions. It's got to come out somewhere. So it will come out in your health 9 times out of 10. That's what I believe anyway.
Beautiful. Is that how you came up with your namesake, the Intimacy Whisperer?
I don't know how I came up with that actually. Too long ago. I've been doing this for about 13 years now. So I can't remember how I came up with the name, to be honest.
It's so
I remember
perfect.
how I came up with my logo, but that's not the name.
I was going to ask you, because you said that a lot of people, that's one of the leading questions, is what led you into your work? You've given us some clues. Like you said, it's in your book. So
It's on
tell us
Amazon.
where we can find it. Amazon, of course.
Amazon, of course, because you're in America, it's probably easier than me, unless you can get a hard copy on Amazon or the ebook, or if you'd like a signed copy, you'd have to order it through my website and I'd have to post it to you.
Well, tell our listeners where they can find you, your website, any of your social media handles.
Yeah, sure. So my website's my name, paulineryland.com, and my social handles are Intimacy Whisperer on Facebook and Instagram.
Wonderful. Pauline, this has been a pleasure sharing with you the secrets of our sexuality. We've learned so much, from techniques to understanding the amygdala and the past traumas that need to be released. Thank you for sharing your
You're so
time
welcome.
and your energy, your beautiful energy with us today. I'm going to get all your details in the show notes where we can find you. I think the world and menopause women should be grateful that there are people out there like yourselves who's doing this work. It's a hidden secret that we need to tap into. We were designed as sexual beings, and sexuality is very much part of our health.
100% it is, and it's something that just gets overlooked a lot. And when I started this work, I knew I was pushing buttons. People weren't coping. Who's this out there woman talking about sex? And I just had to persevere. And I was like, no, this is what I'm meant to be doing.
I think that your higher self is keeping you on the straight and narrow on this one, whispering, don't give up. Beautiful.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's been lovely talking to you. I'm enjoying this process of the podcast. It's been great. So thank you.
Keep sharing your magic.
I will.
You know, one of the things that really struck me about this conversation with Intimacy Whisperer Pauline Ryland was how rarely we discuss or even understand the intricate relationship between trauma, menopause, and sexual wellness. Pauline's work in this field can be game-changing and life-transforming for her clients' sexual health and overall well-being. As she explained, suppressed sexual energy isn't just about intimacy. It can affect your overall vitality and health. Think of it as part of a life force that needs acknowledgement and understanding. But still, it often goes unexplored in mainstream conversations. So disrupting the narrative and getting into an honest conversation about intimacy and sexuality with Pauline has uncovered crucial insights that I feel every woman should know. Here are my key takeaways. Number 1, the connection between trauma and menopause. We often think of these as separate issues, but here's the thing, they're deeply interconnected. When we carry unprocessed trauma, especially with post-traumatic stress disorder or sexual abuse, it just doesn't sit quietly. It is stuck emotional energy stored in the body that will significantly impact our menopausal symptoms. Past emotional experiences directly influence libido. The body's protective mechanism may suppress libido as a survival response. Number 2, the power of mental transformation. Mindset and belief systems play a crucial role in sexual awareness. So addressing our deep-seated beliefs about ourselves can lead to a profound life transformation. The mind-body connection is fundamental to healing and recovery. Number 3, understanding sexual energy and health. As we said, suppressed sexual energy can affect our overall health and vitality. But there's interesting work with the energetic body. Energetic body work can be instrumental in unlocking hidden beliefs, stuck energy, and helping us seek and find pleasure. One critical step is to feel safe and secure in exploring intimacy, and that requires paying attention to our nervous system. Integrating practices such as the havening technique are simple go-to tools to calm the nervous system and remove emotional charges from past trauma so that we are more emotionally connected and present. And number 4, here's something that really got me excited, the power of our thoughts. Pauline shared this incredible story about how addressing deep-seated beliefs completely transformed one of her clients' lives. It really hammered home that our thoughts and our beliefs aren't just abstract concepts. They're literally shaping our physical experiences, whether it's menopause, aging, midlife, or simply being capable of enjoying intimacy and our own sexuality. Overall, this conversation reminds us that healing is possible and that addressing trauma and emotional well-being is crucial for our health. As for the journey through menopause, which is uniquely personal, yet universal in its impact on women's lives, understanding the connection between past experiences, current challenges, as well as sexual wellness is crucial for healing and growth as we step into this age of wisdom. If today's insights resonated with you, I'd love for you to be part of our growing community of menopause disruptors. Hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening right now. And if you know someone who can benefit from these conversations, please share this episode. Sometimes a simple act of sharing can be the first step in someone's healing journey. And hey, if you're ready to take the next step in your menopause journey, I'm here to support you. You can find all my services, including my comprehensive Menopause Intelligence digital course, one-on-one coaching programs, and workplace education services at mlcoaching.com. It's in the show notes. Want to stay connected and get regular doses of menopause wisdom? Follow me on Instagram at Menopause Disruptor Podcast, where I share tips, insights, and real conversations about navigating this transformative phase of life. Let's continue to disrupt this menopause conversation together. Remember, midlife should be the best life, and it will be. Namaste.